Right, what are we doing here today? We are doing a tag video.
With your hand on your heart, please tell me which way to go.
So I'm a little late to this tag video, and I don't know if I specifically got tagged for it, but I do recall Tara from Olfactophiles tagging anybody who hadn't done it yet, so here I am. This is the My Fragrance Addiction tag that was started by Emmy's World of Fragrance. I will link her channel and Tara's channel down below in case you want to go check out their videos on this topic. And I have the questions here, so let us proceed. So, question number 1. Why do you use fragrance? Is it for a mood booster, habit, compliments, or any other reason? I think for me it is largely mood related, and I think that's also why I don't actually have a signature fragrance, or I don't consider myself to be the type of person who's ever really had a signature scent, because I wear fragrances depending on my mood, and that's pretty much it really. I mean, it doesn't really have to even be about mood specifically, but it's just that I like to smell nice things and I like to smell nice. So, I don't know, what would you call that? I guess it's mood, ambiance. Yeah, I don't really wear fragrances for compliments because where I live, it's not really a thing. People don't normally comment on the way other people smell. What was the other reason? Habit. Well, I guess you could say that I have formed a habit of putting on fragrance. I don't know. That's an interesting question. What constitutes a habit? Is it something that you do unconsciously, or is it something that you do consciously but as a matter of routine? I guess it's the latter, in which case it probably is a habit as well. Question 2 is, how much and where do you apply perfume? I try not to do too much. The amount that I apply does change depending on the type of fragrance that I wear. I mean, obviously there are some fragrances that are very light and designed to be light, and you can, just spritz a little bit more. Others are just so heavy, or can, if applied too much, can be headache inducing. So I tend to, be a little bit more standoffish on those. But typically I'm pretty lazy, so I only do a few spritzes really. So where I like to apply perfume is I spritz it once on my forearm, not my wrist, for 2 reasons. Usually I'm wearing a watch. My watch never comes off, really. I mean, this one does because it's an Apple Watch and it has to be charged, but the watch that I wore for about 12 years prior to getting this watch last year was basically on my wrist all the time. So I never took it off for any reason. And consequently, I got into the habit of spritzing on my forearm because I didn't want to just spritz the metal on the watch. But also, the other reason that I like to spritz my forearm instead of my wrist is because if I'm sampling or intending to sample other fragrances throughout the day, I tend to want to spritz them on the back of my hand. And if I've sprayed my scent of the day on my forearm, I find that is less likely to interfere with the thing that I'm sampling, versus having a perfume directly on my wrist and my pulse points. That was a very long explanation. The other place I like to spritz my perfume is, again, it depends, but so usually I will spritz once on my forearm and then I'll just dab onto the other arm. I'm really lazy. I don't even want to switch hands to put the bottle, to spritz it on the other arm. It's just ridiculous. And then I like to wear 1 spritz on each shoulder, under my clothing, not on my clothing, so on the skin. And I find that gives me a nice sort of little scent bubble without being too in my face, because you've got clothing over the top. Otherwise, I will spritz on my abdomen. If I'm not intending to sample anything else, I might spritz it on the back of my neck. But that's pretty much it. So what's that? 1, 2, 3 spritzes generally. But then depending on the perfume, I might also add one on my stomach or one behind my neck or something like that. So 3 to 5 max, usually for me. That usually does mean though, sometimes I have to reapply, but I don't mind that so much. I mean, I always have samples of something in my bag, so I'm happy to reapply perfume or to change it up. But I don't like to get longevity out of a perfume by drenching myself, because I don't know, I have been finding as I get older that I'm a little bit more sensitive to fragrances and getting headaches and things like that. So I have really cut back on how much I apply. And if it's a weak perfume, I'd rather just reapply it than to, drench myself and hope that it lasts the whole day. How many perfumes do you use per day? Well, that's changed dramatically in the last year or so. But generally, I wear 3 perfumes a day, but it does depend. I mean, that's not including days where I'm sampling lots of things, because that could be a day where I wear, 10 fragrances, depending on what I'm spritzing and where I'm spritzing it. But typically it's 3. In the morning, I will get up, and depending on what I'm doing, if I'm going to the gym, I will apply something that's fairly light and not too intrusive, but still makes me feel good and helps to wake me up. Or I will wear something really comforting if I'm just sort of mooching around the house, or I will wear something new that I want to try. Then, obviously, when my work day starts or when my day starts, I will, I have a shower and get dressed. Then I'll put my scent of the day on, so whatever that's going to be. And then usually that will go for most of the day. And then when I come home in the evening, I'll put something else on before I go to bed or after my evening shower. There is sometimes, or more regularly lately, a window in the afternoon where I will put something else on, particularly if I'm working from home. I will find that, sort of mid-afternoon, I'm ready to put something else on, and so I'll respritz. So in that case, it's been 4 fragrances a day, but typically it's kind of 3. And sometimes even if I'm going into the office, I will come home from work, and if I feel like it, and if it's a few hours before I know I'm going to be having a shower or whatever, I might spritz something else on. So it's, in general, I would say on average 3 or 4 fragrances per day. Do you enjoy other perfumed products? Why, yes, I do. I have done a couple of videos, I think, on candles that I use to scent my home. Part of the reason why my addiction to fragrance has become so much more prolific, I would say, in the last decade or so, is because I, at one point in my 20s, had an interest in aromatherapy, which stemmed from having used essential oils in burners and things as a child at home, or when I was studying my final exams at high school to get into university. And because my mother was very into diffusing essential oils to help with memory and things like that. So I think the concoction we used to have was ginkgo biloba, rosemary oil, and there was something else as well. So, and that was something that I just continued doing, using lots of essential oils to scent the home. Although once I'd finished my exams, I would pick nicer things to smell. Although I quite liked the rosemary oil. I thought that was very refreshing. But yeah, so when in my 20s, I kind of developed a little bit of an interest in aromatherapy. I never studied it or anything like that, but I had a couple of aromatherapy books, and I got really interested in making my own skincare and scenting them with essential oils, or like shower gels and things like that. So, and that sort of took me well into my 30s. I enjoyed using essential oils, and I still have a massive stack of them in the cupboard over here. I haven't used essential oils for a while now in the diffusers, but I did also go through a period of doing lots of yoga and all that sort of stuff. So diffusing sandalwood oils and things like that was something that I would do on a regular basis to get that sort of new agey vibe going on in the house. In terms of other scented home products, I mean, obviously scented candles. I don't really use anything else. I did go through a phase of using linen sprays, but I just found them to be so pricey. And, you know, the ones that I liked, which were based on, say, a perfume that I already liked. Sorry, that lighting is getting a bit crazy, but I can't really do much about it at the moment. I got into using linen sprays because there were sometimes perfumes that I really liked and they had a linen spray as part of their line. And so I would buy those. But then I just thought they're really pricey things to be spritzing on your sheets. And then the other, obviously, home product that you can use is reed diffusers, which I did get into for a while, but I kind of got over them because they just seem to be massive dust collectors, and I'd often forget that I had them sitting there because after a while the scent is really quite subtle and you can only smell it when you're kind of right on top of it, type of thing. I've never really gravitated towards those plug-in things. My mother is a big fan of those. I don't really like them because I just don't like how they smell. The same with aerosol room sprays and stuff. Although I have been tempted a couple of times to maybe try the Cire Trudon room perfume, but I think that's just an extravagance I don't need over the top of the candles that I have and the La Promenuse that I bought last year during COVID. So I think I'm set for home fragrance for the time being. And then in terms of other body products, I don't actually use much else in terms of scented products. There are a couple of fragrances that I have the matching body lotion for, and I really enjoy, you know, layering those with the perfume so that, you know, it lasts longer and things like that. I use unscented shower gels and I use unscented skincare as much as possible. For the most part, I went through a period of having very sensitive skin in sort of my late 20s, early 30s. It was probably about 5 years where for some reason my skin just seemed to flare up at everything. So I got into the habit of buying unscented, sort of very bland skincare products, and I've pretty much stuck with that now because A, they're fairly cheap, and B, they're still working for me, I think. So I tend to not use fragranced products. The other thing that I do use in terms of fragrance is hair products. So I do have, again, essential oils that have been diluted with maybe a bit of coconut oil or something like that. Sometimes I will put in my hair if I want to smell like that. Otherwise, the hair perfumes, I have bought those on occasion to help boost my perfume for the day. Although now I've gotten a bit lazy with that and I tend to just use the actual perfume. And what I'll do is I'll just spritz the perfume on my hands and wait a couple of seconds and then put it through my hair. Or I might spritz it onto my hairbrush and then brush my hair. Or if I'm feeling really brave that day and a bit rebellious, I might just spray the perfume directly into my hair. I do like scented hair products, or I do like having the perfume in my hair because I like how it can be very subtle and sort of still continue that scent cloud, and it lasts longer. So because really all I want is to be able to smell it. I don't care if other people can smell me or not. So, and I find that doing the hand trick it means that I don't apply too much. Whereas if I'm spritzing perfume directly into my hair, I know that you're not supposed to do that for a start, but I also feel like there's a good chance that I might end up giving myself a headache because it'll be too much in the vicinity of my face. So that was a really long explanation. The next question, I'm sorry about this lighting. It's all over the place. There's obviously clouds in the sky today and it's everywhere, so I apologize. The next question is, what fragrance in your collection best represents your taste and aesthetic? This is an interesting question because I think it was on my Instagram maybe a month or so ago. I asked people if they match sort of colours or outfits with their perfume because I was wearing a black outfit that day, like I do most days. And I had, I think, Chanel No. 50 Premiere on or something. So I was thinking my perfume doesn't match my outfit because I feel like I should be wearing a white shirt with that fragrance. I don't think I match my perfume with my aesthetic so much, but the fragrances that best represent my taste at the moment are Amouage Beloved Woman and Une Rose Chypre by Andy Tower. So what do these things have in common? Well, they're kind of both vintagey smelling. They're a bit complicated, I would say. They have some green elements to them, and I don't know, I guess they kind of smell a little mature, a little bit opulent. Yeah, opulent, I think, is my current taste in perfume. Not necessarily anything else, but definitely my current taste in perfume. I'm quite liking the opulent ones, but not the really loud ones, if that makes any sense. These ones are very big perfumes, but they're not massively projecting, and they're kind of soft as well. The sillage is kind of soft. It's not loud, not punchy, if you know what I mean. That's definitely how I kind of want to smell at the moment, is opulent and bold and confident, but not loud. The next question is the fragrance that I love but I don't wear very often, and why. And I could say Tonka Imperial because of that stupid puffer atomizer that's on that bottle, but I already talked about that in a previous video. So instead, I'm going to go with Oud Bouquet. And the reason being, I actually really love the scent, but as I've talked about previously with other Maison Lancôme fragrances that I have recently decluttered, there is something in here that is kind of very loud, and so I tend to just not reach for it very much anymore. Having said that, I think I have worn it in the last year. I think I've worn all of my fragrances in the last year, at least once. So the ones that I haven't worn are no longer in my collection because I've been decluttering them. But I would say that this is one that I do love, and I haven't decluttered it because I love it, but I struggle to find an occasion to wear it. I also live in a very hot climate and a very humid climate, and so this can be quite cloying in that circumstance. And so that's another reason why, perhaps if I lived in a colder climate, I would wear this more. That's a good point. That probably also contributes to why I find some fragrances to be really overpowering and screechy and loud. It's maybe not the fragrance. It could just be the fact that I live in a really hot place and fragrances just jump off your skin a lot more here than they might do in a colder place. Question number 7 is, do I divide fragrances by masculine, feminine, seasonal based, or any other categories? No, is the answer to that. There is absolutely no rhyme or reason to how my fragrance wardrobe is organized. None. Some fragrances are grouped by house. So pretty much all of my Guerlains sit together, all of my Ormond Janes sit together, most of my Serge Lutens sit together. But no, there's no rhyme or reason. I just move them around as I see fit, effectively, and I change them up all the time. I'm always reorganizing. One way I can say that I organize my perfume cabinet is the cabinet behind me, those 2 shelves that are the most accessible, and I've actually just filmed a cabinet reorganization video a few days ago. So you might have noticed that it looks a little bit different now. And I don't know when I'm going to upload that, if ever, because it is a bit sort of ad hoc. A bit like how those declutter videos were last year, which were done very badly. So I'm not sure if I'm going to upload it. If you want me to upload it, let me know and I'll do that. But for the most part, I'm sort of leaning towards no. But anyway, I'm digressing. The cabinet behind me, the shelves that are most accessible, I tend to put, I might change those up fairly regularly because I might put fragrances on there that I want to wear more often. And I also should mention that most of the fragrances that Matt likes to wear, I do keep in the cupboard over there because I'm always changing the fragrance cabinet around. He gets confused and he can't find the things that he wants and he forgets about them. So, and when I say his, I mean they're ours because I wear his fragrances too. But I tend to keep those together all the time because it's easier for him. Question number 8 is, how do you typically purchase fragrances? Sampling based on reviews, blind buying, trying to sample in a store? Well, all of the above, really. I love going into stores and sampling as much as I can. Don't get there very often these days though, but now that I'm back at the office, I may end up doing that more. It is definitely the cheapest way because you don't have to buy anything. You can literally go in there and have something spritzed on, assuming that they stock what you want. Sadly though, here, the options for the things that I want versus what we have available in store is pretty limited. So I usually always have to go and get samples. My go-to place to get samples, and I'm glad this question has come up actually because maybe I can now answer this question for everybody about where I find samples. I'm based in Australia, so I don't know what the options are in the US, but I know that Tara and some other people have covered that fairly extensively. My first go-to place when I want to try and sample something is the Facebook groups, the fragrance Facebook groups that are local. And the reason being that most of the time, I find people are really generous in this community. I'm happy to give samples to people who are seeking certain things, and in return other people are happy to share samples, and really all we have to do is cover the postage and that's it. So it's fairly rare that I can't get a sample of something locally for almost nothing, assuming that somebody local has the fragrance to give me a sample of it. Otherwise, my next option is always, if I can't get something through the Facebook groups, and I'm happy to pay for samples, please don't misread or misinterpret my answer to that last question. I'm not saying that I expect people to give me free samples. I'm simply saying that a lot of people will happily give you free samples. You've just got to cover the postage and maybe the cost of the vial or something like that. The other place that I like to go is the perfumer's website, especially sort of the niche and indie perfumers. They do tend to have samples available for purchase or discovery sets, and so I will do that. I'm sort of on the fence as to whether I want to continue down the discovery set route. Sometimes you don't really have a choice because you can't buy, or you can't always buy individual samples, but I'm just starting to find that entire discovery kits seem like a bit of a waste to me because there's usually only 1 or 2 that I end up liking, and typically, not always, but typically they're the fragrances that I'm interested in the first place. But it's always nice as well to be able to sample the whole range and to get a feel for the whole offering that the house has. And then really beyond that, the only other option is to try and go and get samples in store. And because I'm in Australia, I tend not to use websites like ScentSplit or Royalty Scents and stuff like that as much, because with the shipping, with their conversion rate plus the shipping, it really is not a cost-effective way. I mean, by the time you do that, you may as well have bought a bottle or something. So just about. So I tend not to use those sort of sites very much. But I do have a subscription to Unique You, which is a fragrance subscription. I think they're based in Germany. and they send out a vial every month of a decant of, you know, whatever you've picked. And I like them because they do have some houses and things that I can't easily access here. So that's why I choose them. So question number 9 is, what fragrance from your collection was not a love at first sniff and took you some time to love? I can't keep saying Chanel number 5, can I? Okay, let me think about this. Yes, I have 2 actually. I have 2. Hang on. So the first one that I want to talk about here is Oh My Soul by 4160 Tuesdays. This I sort of purchased blindly just based on the description a couple of years ago. And I don't know, I guess because of everything that I'd read, I wasn't I kind of had an image in my mind of what this would be like. I thought this was going to be darker. I think that was the thing. And so when I tried it, it's actually still quite light, but I wouldn't describe it as a light fragrance, but it's not, I know, I kind of thought, because it is a little bit boozy, but it's not really dark boozy. And I think a lot of boozy fragrances that I've tried all tend to be, you've got the boozy notes, but then you've got like a heap of patchouli or something in there as well. And so it's quite dark, and maybe labdanum. But this is not, it's still quite sweet. It's just got so many different things in it. It took me a little while, and I haven't worn it a whole heap, as you can see, but when I do wear this, I think I fell in love with this last winter. Now, I mean, I'm really looking forward to wearing this in wintertime, because this did work really well last winter. And that's the first one. The other one that I did not love when I first tried it was Fève Delicious. And I don't know why. I think because I had Tonka Imperial in my mind when I first tried this. I bought a decant of this, oh gosh, a couple of years ago now. And I don't know, it's funny why we don't like things because it doesn't smell like something else that we already have. I don't understand the logic in my mind when I sit down and think about that concept. When I try something because I think it's going to smell like that, and then it doesn't smell like that, and I don't like it. And I'm thinking, well, why? Why would I want another bottle of something that smells exactly the same? Not exactly, but you know. Long story short, didn't like it at first. I felt like there was just too much going on in here. And I also found this quite suffocating when I first tried it as well. And then the decant sat there for ages. And then last winter, towards the end of last winter actually, I think I was trying to go through my decants and start using up old ones that were maybe starting to look a bit dodgy. And this one, the decant, was looking like it was going to start leaking or something. So I decided to use it. And in the process of using it, I ended up falling in love with it. So then I picked up a bottle. They're the 2 that I didn't love, and now I do. And they're not Chanel number 5. I better speed this up because I've got to be somewhere. How do I handle fragrance fails and disappointments? I sell them. If I've blind bought something and I don't like it, I either sell it or give it away. Usually these days, it's very easy to fall into a mindset of, oh, I've been doing this perfume thing for a long time now, so I know what I like. And when you smell something that you find challenging, or, you know, that you think smells, you know, synthetic or whatever, it's very easy to go, nah, don't like that, it's going. The way I like to handle it, especially if I've blind bought a bottle, I've already made the investment. So I may as well spend a little bit more time and try, because there are many perfumes in my collection that weren't loves at first sniff, and I developed an appreciation for them over time. Another one I can tell you off the bat is Musc Ravageur. I never liked that fragrance, and now I actually don't find it that challenging at all. So I guess the way I handle, well, if I'm disappointed, I'm disappointed. Not really much I can do about that, but you know, there's lots of perfume in the world, and there's always more, and there's always something else coming through. So just move on and keep looking, or stop looking and just enjoy the things that you have. Or alternatively, if I've bought it and it's challenging, but I don't, it doesn't repulse me, I will work with it a little bit just to see if I can understand it a bit more. And sometimes that works out and sometimes it doesn't, in which case I either give it away or sell it, and I'm done with it. Fragrance on my wish list that I'm not able to purchase, and why? I know exactly the answer to this question, and that is the Opaz, and I'm mispronouncing this, the Fleur d'Orange one from the Opaz. I got interested in this one because Eve Spider Smells talked about this fragrance on her channel a few times, and it smelled amazing. It sounded amazing, and I really love orange blossom and I really love Nerolian fragrances, so I was really intrigued by it. And then Sam from My World of Fragrance also talked about this fragrance, and I don't know, I got a bit obsessed about it, and finally, literally in the last few days, I've been able to get my hands on a sample of it, and it was an instant, I really love it. And the more the day went on, the more I really loved it, and now I really want a bottle. But I've looked at their website and I don't believe that they ship to Australia. That is probably the one at the top of my list at the moment of ones that I want but can't get. But the other one that I could talk about, which I haven't even really tried yet, but I'm so curious about it, is the Boudica, the Victorious Blue Sapphire. Again, this was talked about by Sam at My World of Fragrance, and I'm so curious about it. And I've, obviously since investigated a bit, and there's been lots of rave reviews about it, but I can't sample it. There is a store now in Australia that stocks the Boudica Victorious line, but you can't get samples. So I don't live in Melbourne, so I can't get there to actually smell it, unfortunately. So that's the first hurdle, but then the next hurdle is it retails at just under $1,000 a bottle. So it's unlikely that I'm going to buy that one. And the final question is, what percentage of your collection is niche, designer, and celebrity? Well, I think I only have one celebrity fragrance, and that is Stash by Sarah Jessica Parker. I haven't deliberately ignored celebrity fragrances. It's just that for the most part, I found them all to be a little bit too sweet for me, and that's why I've never really gravitated towards them. And as for designer versus niche, I don't know, I think I'd say it's probably about 50-50, and then equal parts designer and niche, maybe a bit more niche than designer, and then indie. I mean, if we're talking about full bottles, because I have lots of 10 ml indie fragrances, but I don't know if I have that many big full-size bottles, 30 mils or over. So maybe 10% of my collection might be indie, less than 1% celebrity, and then the rest is niche and designer. Okay, that's it. I'm comfortable with that analysis. All right, well, that was the last question. So I know that my answers to these questions were very long. I'm hoping that it won't be a very long video. So I would like to know some of your answers to these questions. Sorry, I just suppressed a cough then. And particularly, I'd really like to know your current tastes and what's on your wish list that you want to buy but you can't. You don't have to tell me why if you don't want to, but this was a question I actually posted on my Instagram a few weeks ago, where I sort of said what's on the radar and what do you want to get, but it wasn't specifically what do you want to get and can't get. Feel free to pop that in the answers below. But thank you for joining me. I hope you found this interesting, and I'm out of here because I have to go drop the dog off for puppy sitting because we're going out tonight for a change. So I'll see you soon.